1893, a shocking scandal which shook the Kingdom of Italy. The collapse of Banca Romana, one of just 6 national banks who were authorized to print money. This political and financial disaster and scandal ended numerous careers. It exposed deep-rooted corruption and left lasting scars on the institutions of the Kingdom of Italy. Banca Romana was founded by French and Belgian investors in 1834 under the jurisdiction of the Papal States ruled by Pope Leo XIII. After the fall of the Roman Republic to the French in 1849, the bank was renamed to Banco dello Stato Pontificio in 1850, the official bank of the Papal States. After the annexation of the Papal States to Italy in 1870, the Banca dello Stato Pontificio reverted to its former name of Banca Romana. Rising inflation and easy credit caused the 6 currency issuing banks to steadily increase the volume of currency in circulation. By 1887, 5 of those 6 banks had exceeded their legal limit, something which was well known in government and banking circles. Restricting credit was financially appropriate but considered politically impossible, as the Kingdom of Italy was already suffering a deep recession. New tariffs had been introduced in July 1887 on agricultural and industrial goods, and a trade war with France badly impacted the Italian economy. Farmers in southern Italy were badly impacted, leading to the Fasci Siciliani uprising. We'll come back to that another time. The collapse of an urban redevelopment speculative boom also seriously damaged the coffers of the Italian banks. As governor of Banca Romana was Bernardo Tanlongo, a banker, a property owner, and an expert in accounts and finance. He made his career in Banca Romana, made donations to political parties, and curried favour with the Roman aristocracy, businessmen, Freemasons, the clergy, government officials, and industrialists, as well as the Italian royal family. He was heavily involved in real estate speculation by the wealthy echelons. His loans created a wider personal network which helped him cover up delicate secrets. The large loans to property developers left the banks with huge debts as the property bubble burst in 1887. In 1889, 3 Turin banks exposed to speculative building in Rome abruptly suspended payments. The currency issuing banks were forced to bail out the affected banks in order to avoid a major financial recession. This action caused the 6 banks to issue banknotes well in excess of their permitted reserves and their legal limits, but this only deepened the crisis even further. The bank's directors had committed a number of crimes by issuing additional banknotes with duplicate numbering. A government audit of Banca Romana identified major irregularities and found that 91% of bank assets could not easily be converted into cash. The Banca Romana accounting system was flawed, the issuing of currency was out of control, the storage of currency was not well managed, and it was all susceptible to fraud. Prime Minister Francesco Crispi and Treasury Minister Giovanni Giolitti suppressed the 1889 government report because they feared negative political repercussions. They also wanted to hide the interest-free loans that Banca Romana and other banks had made to politicians. Now, politicians were routinely using these funds to pay for election expenses, and in return they gave subsequent favours. In the end, Banca Romana was a private company with private shareholders. It had a role of public responsibility as an issuing bank. It needed to speculate to maximise profits. Banca Romana was forced to implement monetarism to both issue and also reduce the circulation of notes. Prime Ministers Francesco Crispi, Antonio di Rudini and Luigi Luzzati tried to ride out the storm, fearing the fallout of a fraud scandal, hoping to avoid the inevitable resulting banking reform. Prime Minister Giolitti, between May 1892 and November 1893, tried to get the governor of Banca Romana, Bernardo Tanlongo, to be appointed as a senator, as this would earn him an automatic immunity from criminal prosecution. The banking report was leaked to Napoleone Colajanni, a Sicilian socialist politician, and also to Parliament at the end of 1892. This Italian banking scandal raged as the Panama Canal scandal shook France, which triggered the Panic of 1893 in the United States. This only degraded the economic conditions in Italy, which caused the closure of 2 Italian commercial banks. Giolitti was forced to appoint an expert commission to investigate the 6 money-issuing banks. Treasury Minister Bernardino Grimaldi, a close friend of Tanlongo, introduced a new reform and then withdrew it, allowing the 6 existing banks to continue issuing currency as before. The government report published in 1893 confirmed the perilous state of Banca Romana. The parliamentary report was damning. Former Prime Minister Crispi, Prime Minister Giolitti, and former Finance Minister Luigi Luzzati were aware of the dire state of Banca Romana. They had suppressed information, they had caused uproar in Parliament, and there were calls for Giolitti to resign. Politicians had used bribe money to finance election expenses and pay newspapers for favourable coverage. Giovanni Giolitti now reacted aggressively. The Banking Act of 1893 liquidated Banca Romana and reformed the entire banking system for the issuing of banknotes. Banca d'Italia, charged with liquidating the Banca Romana, they were now given the responsibility to issue banknotes, but under much stricter rules. The newly formed Banca d'Italia was a decisive step forwards towards a centralised currency distribution. Regional interests across Italy demanded no single bank had the monopoly of issuing money. There had to be 3. The banking reform also covered up a number of financial and political scandals. The banking scandal forced a new investigation. Ultimately, Giolitti was blamed for the scandal. He was the finance minister who was aware of the problems in 1889, and he was the one who suppressed the 1889 report while denying all knowledge. He was also the Prime Minister who borrowed from the Banca Romana for government business. He nominated the governor of Banca Romana, Tanlongo, to the Senate, and he resisted a parliamentary inquiry as suspicions swirled around him. Members of Parliament refused to leave in protest, and they held a sit-in as a large crowd gathered and heckled outside. An enraged Napoleone Colajanni incited the multitude. More on him in a later video. Tanlongo and the Banca Romana showed no loyalty to Giolitti in return. They were hoping that a new government would help them. Giolitti was forced to resign on the 24th of November 1893. It could not be proved that Giolitti had used Banca Romana's money to fund an election campaign, but he could not disprove the accusation either. Tanlongo and a number of managers were arrested. As the growing crisis swirled, the trial against Tanlongo and other directors of Banca Romana for fraud began on the 2nd of May 1894. Bernardo Tanlongo and the co-defendants were acquitted on the grounds that major criminals are elsewhere. Quote, a not too subtle attack on Giolitti. Giolitti's successor as Prime Minister was Francesco Crispi, who also now turned on Giolitti. At this point, Giolitti leaked the Giolitti envelope, demonstrating that Crispi had hidden information from the parliamentary inquiry of financial transactions and debts relating to him, his family, and friends with Banca Romana. Crispi denounced the Giolitti documents as fabrications, but he also refused to resign. Troops were now stationed in Rome to maintain order. A committee of 5, including Felice Cavallotti, examined this damning evidence involved Crispi, former President of the Chamber Giuseppe Zanardelli, Giolitti's former Treasury Minister Bernardino Grimaldi, and a number of other ex-ministers. Letters from Bernardo Tanlongo confirmed that the bank had made payments to ministers, senators, and journalists. By December 1894, Crispi was forced to dissolve Parliament as public protests raged. Giolitti was now tried for embezzlement and libel against Crispi and his wife in February 1895. By April 1895, the Supreme Court decided that Giolitti could not be tried by any ordinary civil court because Giolitti had made accusations against Crispi in Parliament. They decided only a parliamentary commission could investigate such matters. In June 1895, the French newspaper Le Figaro published damning documents demonstrating Crispi had concealed financial transactions of himself, his family and friends with Banca Romana. The Chamber of Deputies still refused to indict Giolitti and tried to bury the scandal. It ruled political negligence but not crimes, and this was to widespread uproar. Crispi and Giolitti were ruined, with the extreme left, headed by Felice Cavallotti, making huge political gains. The legacy of the Banca Romana crisis formed a new banking system and the creation of a single central bank, the Bank of Italy, and not for the first time brought down the government. Click here to get even closer to Italy and Sicily.